Hello everyone. As many of you know, I'm Dutch and I lived in the Netherlands for most of my life. I'm happy to be given this opportunity to share a few observances about Jewish life in Holland as I knew it. I would have no difficulty speaking about this topic for more than just a few minutes, but today I will focus on my roles as professional Jew. The Netherlands, or Holland, is a small country in the northwest of Europe. Its population is currently more than 17 million, but in terms of area, the country would actually fit 6 times into Victoria. It is about 2/3 of the size of Tasmania, and its capital is called Amsterdam. Jews have lived in the Netherlands since the Middle Ages, and up until the Second World War, Ashkenazim and Sephardim very much had their own history and their own roles within society. The communities had very little in common and very little contact. My involvement in organized Jewish life started early on, and I reckon that my drive to this engagement was properly ignited in my student days. I had grown up in a warm, traditional Jewish family and environment, with my grandparents at the heart of my Jewish life, attending a Jewish day school and being part of what I saw as a sizable Jewish community. But then at uni, I met Jews outside of this bubble that I had grown up in. Jews whose background was so profoundly different from mine, many of whom didn't even know they were Jewish until their late teens, and many had never ever celebrated Shabbat or the Chagim. Worse, their associations with Judaism were largely negative. Feelings of pain, loss, and even shame were all they had ever been exposed to. Through my involvement in the Dutch Union of Jewish Students, I was able to introduce my fellow Jewish students to the positive elements of our common heritage. We had fun, certainly, but we also shared this journey of discovery and pride. After graduating from university, I started my career in banking and finance. Then I met my Jewish wife, Naomi, and we both knew we wanted to give our children a strong and positive Jewish identity. So when in 2003 I was asked to temporarily replace the director of the Ashkenazi Jewish community of Amsterdam, who was out of action due to health issues, I did not hesitate. And when he recovered, my contract was extended to work alongside him as his number 2. Within this organization, which is responsible for all aspects of the Jewish infrastructure of Greater Amsterdam, I was responsible for youth work, social work and outreach. Apart from managing these departments, my role again focused on re-establishing lost connections with Jewish community and other Jews. So this ranged from encouraging parents to expose their children to Jewish learning and Jewish celebrations, helping young men and women to prepare to marry under a chuppah, and trying to engage with lonely, elderly people who had actively or subconsciously were longing for the Yiddishkeit they had known before the Holocaust. My product was solidarity. And even though this could be very challenging to market in a damaged and decimated environment, every single success was worth all the effort. My last job before leaving the Netherlands was with a small educational organization which offered diversity and identity awareness education to students in years 9 to 11. The organization had obtained funding to take a number of groups to Poland to visit Auschwitz and to teach about the possible ultimate consequence of intolerance and exclusion. Again, this job had a great impact on me and has shaped my perspective on the value of diversity. Jewish life today in Holland is incomparable to what it was only 2 generations ago. It is also incomparable to Jewish life in Melbourne in many ways. Yet, Personally, I've never came across any anti-Semitism, and I feel that the non-Jewish people that I came in contact with, by and large, have always shown respect and an interest. During the 1970s and the 1980s, Holland was decidedly pro-Israel, and Holland played a leading role in the plight of Soviet Jews. So these may be things of the past, but they did make me proud. Today, it is still possible to feel part of a Jewish community in Amsterdam, in Netherlands, to attend a Jewish school, Jewish youth movements, shul services, to have a kosher home and to eat in kosher restaurants. So even though I can certainly tell you much that is negative and challenging, leading a satisfying Jewish life in the Netherlands is still very doable. And I hope I've given you a glimpse of what that looks like. Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, I'm Ami Grinblat, and today we're making pita chips and Techina.
Okay, pour the Techina paste out of the container into a bowl. It is very thick, so a spatula is helpful.
Maverick, you don't get to eat this.
Okay, drain the pickle juice into the Techina. Add the juice of 1 lemon. Add salt and pepper. And use a hand whisk to mix. Add enough water to make mixing possible and reach desired consistency. Pop that to the side and we'll do the pita chips. Okay. Cut pita into triangles. Put olive oil, garlic, turmeric, paprika, dried oregano and salt into a bowl. Mix. And brush the pita triangles with the oil.
Here's the oil. Here's the egg brush.
You can flip over and brush the other side. Put into a 200-degree oven for 10 to 15 minutes or until golden brown. Watch this as they can burn easily. And here are some we prepared earlier. There we go, Techina and pita chips.
Good evening. Tonight's Parsha, Vayetzei, has various events with Yaakov experienced the angel and Yaakov meeting Rachel, and Leah and Rachel stole the idols, and it goes on. And the main one I want to focus on tonight is the secret of Rachel's greatness, a true Eshet Chayil. In this week's Parsha, Jacob sets off to the uncle Laban's town to find a wife. When Jacob arrives and meets his cousin Rachel, he decides that this is the one for him. Jacob is so enthralled with the shidduch, the match, that he agrees to work a full 7 years for Uncle Laban before earning the right to marry Rachel. In fact, the Torah reports that Jacob's excitement was so great that the 7 years seemed like only a few days. And then after 7 years, the big wedding arrives. And Jacob creates a word to identify Rachel when the wedding arrives. In other words, a password code. Because he knew with his experience how he hurt Esau when he took over the blessing of the firstborn. So he had an idea that Lavan could have the same idea and switch the older daughter for Rachel. So Rachel, knowing what a terrible embarrassment her sister would suffer if the deception was applied, where to be revealed at the moment, told Leah what to say. In order to spare embarrassment, Rachel was actually willing to give up her husband she had waited patiently for 7 years, you can imagine. Rachel achieved greatness because she was willing to do just that. There are various laws today to prevent embarrassment. Temple offerings brought for serious transgressions were processed in a nondescript location. Yom Kippur, a person confesses their mistakes. It should be done in a way that is not audible to others. Maimonides' laws in damages, one person can sue another, not only for physical damages, but for emotional distress as well, specifically for pain of embarrassment. In listing the levels of charity, one of the highest degrees is when neither the giver nor the receiver knows each other's identity, a great mitzvah that minimizes any embarrassment the poor person may feel. In the story of biblical Bilam and his talking donkey, if you remember the story, an angel slays the donkey so that it won't be continuing the source of embarrassment to Bilam. The Torah even demands sensitivity to the evil person. What was Rachel's reward? The Midrash describes how Jacob buried Rachel alongside the road in Bethlehem, not in Hebron like the other matriarchs. He foresaw how the Jews would pass by Bethlehem on the way to exile and wished that Rachel would sense their anguish and pray for them. 1,000 years later, the Jews erected an idol in the Holy Temple, and God sought to destroy Jerusalem. The souls of the Jews' patriarchs and matriarchs pleaded with Hashem to spare the Jews from permanent exile. In exchange for Hashem's assurance, Abram offered all the merits of having brought the belief in one God to the world, but God said that would not suffice. Isaac pleaded with God in the merit of his willingness to be sacrificed on Mount Moriah. That too was rejected insufficient. Jacob, Moses, and others presented their merits. None would suffice. Rachel's soul then presented itself before Hashem. Master of the universe, she began, I waited 7 years to marry my beloved Jacob. When the wedding day finally arrived, my father schemed to switch me with Leah. I realized that she would be put to shame, so I had compassion and gave her the password. I overcame my own feelings and was not jealous. I allowed a competitor into my own home, so to speak. So if I was able to do it, then all the more so you, Hashem, should not be strict about the idolatrous and competitor in your home. Immediately Hashem's compassion was aroused. He said, don't cry over the exile, Rachel. For your sake, I'll return the children to Israel, to their homeland once again. Shabbat Shalom to all, and thank you to Rabbi Reverson for keeping us all together during COVID-19 with all the Zoom programs and all the Devar Torahs, and everybody's participated. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom.
The yard sites for the upcoming week. Martin Artenstein for your father, Shirley Glantz for your mother, Malva Fridlender for your great-grandmother, Mimi Gotthelf for your father, Jack New for your brother, Benny Moskovic for your aunt, and Michael Snyder for your mother. Wish you all long life. Jewish birthdays for the upcoming week: Michelle Barnett, David Birnbaum, Craig Breitberg, Mazal Cohen, Kirby Felbel. Wish you all a very happy Jewish birthday. Also, this coming Tuesday night, we're having a Zoom session live from Israel. Yaakov Jacobi, a great tour guide, will show us Modi'in and the life of the Hasmonean and Maccabean family, where the whole story of Hanukkah happened. A very fascinating journey there with many archaeological findings, and it will really transport us back to that time and give us a deeper understanding. So log on to our Zoom connection on Tuesday night, 8th December at 8 p.m. In Parshas Vayetzei, we read about how Jacob was fleeing Esau and he comes to Lavan, his uncle's house, and he meets Rachel and wants to marry her. Lavan, Rachel's father, says, fine, but you'll have to work for 7 years in order to earn her hand. So Jacob agrees, and it says in the verse, and he worked for 7 years, and it passed by quickly, like a few days, out of love for her. So the question is, if you love someone and you want to marry someone, every moment that passes seems like a long time. Time doesn't pass quickly when you're really waiting for something and you're wanting something to happen. So what does it mean that the 7 years passed by very quickly because he loved her? Well, the answer given by many commentators is based on a parable of the fish lover. A fish lover comes into a restaurant with his friend and he tells the waiter, I love fish. The waiter nods knowingly and he runs into the kitchen, and the friend of this fish lover follows the waiter to see what's going to happen. And to his horror, he sees the waiter take out a live fish from an aquarium, bash its head to death, dismember it, fry it in onions, and put it on a plate. And the friend runs out and tells his friend, the fish lover, look what they're doing to your fish. And he tells him what they did. So he says, excellent, beautiful. So then his friend turns to him and says, you don't love fish. You love yourself. A true fish lover is a conservationist. They are the true fish lovers. But someone who loves fish to eat doesn't love fish. They love themselves. The fish is just an object of how to fulfill their desires. A lot of times we love things or love people not because we truly love them, it's because we love ourselves, and these people fulfill those things that we desire and we want. In Hebrew, the word for love is ahava. The root of ahava is ahav, which means to give. True love means to give to the other person. To be ready to do anything for the other person and not necessarily get anything back. If you truly love someone else, you will do whatever it takes to fulfill the desires of the other person. Jacob had true love for Rachel, for Rachel. It wasn't love of himself. He loved Rachel because Rachel had a tremendous neshama, and he felt that he needed to be ready for her. He didn't feel he was ready yet. That's why he agreed initially to wait 7 years, because he wanted to prepare himself. So, on the contrary, every moment that passed, he felt he's preparing himself better, to be prepared better for Rachel. And he'll be able to be a better husband and a better father for the Jewish nation, the more he prepares himself. So when you want something for yourself, then time doesn't pass quickly. But if you're waiting in order to prepare yourself for another's benefit, on the contrary, every whenever time passes, you feel that you're getting more prepared and more ready, and therefore you feel more happy about it, and therefore the time passes quicker. Have a wonderful Shabbat.